welcome or welcome back to my channel, Lydia Lost the Plot. I am so happy to be back. I've had a little hiatus. I'm not sure how long it's been in between my uploads recently, but I have been so full of a cold. Like it was really bad that I felt okay, like I could manage, but I sounded literally like Barry White, and it wasn't pretty, so I spared you my horrendous voice, and I might cough throughout this, but I'm going to try my best to get through because we've reached the end of the month. I know this is very late, but time is a construct, and on the internet it doesn't really matter. So I thought I would share with you today my September monthly wrap up. Now, I didn't get a lot read in September. It was hectic. Hectic with work, hectic with family, children, all sorts. I mean, it's been testing, I think is the correct word. Testing. And I've been poorly as well, which has not helped. You'll probably hear Cassie walking around in the background. But I did get some stuff read, and what I got read was very good. I really enjoyed it. So it wasn't a completely wasted month, but it was just frustrating because I had so many plans for how much I was going to read, and then I always find that when life goes very hectic and when I start to feel like unwell, or even if it's like my mental health, things like that, that my reading is like the first thing to go. It's the symptom of a problem. And so my reading took a back foot, and to be honest, that's not really the end of the world because I've been able to get myself well. I've been able to stay recovered from my chronic illness, and have just been able to sort of get myself better, which I'm glad about. And whilst I was there in my bed doing pretty much nothing, when I was ill, I binge watched a load of monthly wrap-ups on YouTube, so that was quite fun, and thoroughly enjoyed delving into everybody's reading. So without further ado, let's get on to the books. So the first book that I finished in September, I can't believe we're in October already, it's making me feel sick, was Boulder by Eva Baltasar. Now, this book I thought was really good. It was enjoyable. I thought the premise was interesting, and you can see more of my in-depth review of it over on one of my weekly wrap-ups earlier on in September. It wasn't groundbreakingly brilliant like I thought it would be. I had heard so many good things about this, and I don't know if it suffers from the hype that was around it in my head. I tend to put a lot of pressure on books. If they come hyped, I'm like, this has got to be good. So it was probably partly my fault. However, there were some beautiful bits in it, and I do really enjoy it, and I would read more of Eva Baltasar's work. So I don't think it was a loss, and it certainly wasn't a dud, but it wasn't a 5-star read. I think for me it would sit between 3.5 and 4 stars, and I'm not really into star rating, but that kind of gives you an idea of where I would place it. I'm very stingy with me 5 stars. Stingy. But it was good. It was succinct. It was, some of it was absolutely beautiful, but I don't know, there's something didn't quite hit home for me, and I'm not sure what it is. And I think the problem, to quote Taylor Swift, is me, not the book. So the next book that I finished in September was the short story collection, the latest short story collection by Stephen King, You Like It Darker. Now, this was just phenomenal. It was so good. Oh, I loved it. Again, in my weekly wrap up, I do talk about this, but I have to say, it was just phenomenal from start to finish. There wasn't one bad story in it. There wasn't any kind of, sometimes Stephen King, you get a bit of a fluff story. And these are all stories that I think have been sat in the bottom of his drawer, and it's like, what else is in the bottom of that drawer? Because this is phenomenal. It's so good. it has continuations of stories like Cujo. It also has an absolutely beautifully fantastic book story called Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream, that I think if that was a full-length novel, it would be one of his best, because I just wanted more. It was so phenomenally written. Like, the characterization was incredible. There are stories in here that will scare the living bejesus out of you, and there's stories in here that will make you think, and there's stories in here that will make you cry, and it just and some that filled me with hope. I thought, here's Stephen King, like, just giving me everything I need. So I loved it, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's so phenomenal, and I'm really, really glad that I read this. I think as well, when I'm poorly, even though I know it was a cold, I'm making the most of it, okay? I'm being dramatic. Even though I was poorly, I was at death's door and I could see the light beckoning me to the next realm. Sometimes I like to go back to the authors that make me feel like safe and secure and like I'm definitely gonna get a good read, and this did the trick. Did not disappoint. It's fantastic. If you haven't read any Stephen King yet, give some of these stories a go, particularly I would say Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream. Pick it up, go to your local library and just read that one story, and then come back to me and tell me how it made you feel, because I think you'll want to read the rest. So that was Stephen King's You Like It Darker. Loved it. And the next book I've got two versions of. I know, crazy. But the next book that I read, and in fact the last book that I read, 3 books, I mean, that's terrible, isn't it? But still, it's not about the quantity. I keep having to tell myself this. But the last book that I read in September was Northwoods by Daniel Mason. This was the Waterstones fiction book of the month for September, and it was about time that I got to it, because I did have this beautiful version. I mean, I say beautiful version, some people really, really hate its cover. Some people absolutely despise it, but I quite like it. I don't know why, I just do. I mean, it's got like a weird woman on the back as well. But this is signed. Should we have a look at the signature, see if it's oh okay, it's not a complete cop out. You can sort of tell that's the name. I hate signatures that are just squiggles, which is what mine is, so you know, hypocrite. But yeah, which one do you prefer? Apple or weird headless child with apple? Which one? Anyway, I'll set this aside. Back onto the book. I've not really spoken about Northwoods because I didn't do a weekly wrap up due to the Barry White situation, but I really enjoyed this. It took a while to get going. It's basically over 4 centuries about this one plot of land, and about all of the different people that live on the land and how they're kind of interconnected through the land, through the nature, particularly through an orchard that's planted there and that begins to grow there. And you know what? It was really compelling in places and really interesting a lot of the time. I wouldn't say it blew my socks off. It's again like Boulder by Eva Baltasar. It's a good book. This is a good book, and I thoroughly enjoyed recommending it to people who liked a bit of historical fiction, who like family sagas, who like epic narratives, because this would absolutely appeal to all of those people. The only thing I struggle with is that it's not got a protagonist, and it's not got a particularly linear narrative, so it's a little bit all over the place. That's intentional, completely intentional, and I think it's reader preference that I don't really get on with books like that all of the time. But I enjoyed it. There were some beautiful passages in it, and it's got some really nice like illustrations in. I'm trying to find one. Some of it's like part poem, some of it's like newspaper clippings, some of it's letters. So it's all kind of like different throughout the whole of it, which I found really refreshing. It was a nice approach to to write a book like this, and it sort of does feel like a found book, non-fiction book, you know, like you would find in the back of an old library, and it has the history of this little place. So I thought that was really well done, and I enjoyed it. It just, again, it's not for me. I don't think I'll be running to get another Daniel Mason book anytime soon, but I don't think it's bad. I don't think he's a bad writer at all, and I think actually he shows a lot of potential to write something incredible, but just maybe not for me. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I'm gonna cough, I'm sorry. Apologies. I hate it when people cough, but I can't help it. So then that was my reading for September. Would you believe it's that quick? Because I read nothing in the latter half. I had like 3 books on the go. And I am currently reading, I will tell you what I'm currently reading. I'm currently reading Orbital by Samantha Harvey. Really good. Honestly, it's really good. If you like space, if you liked films like Gravity and Life and Sunshine by Danny Boyle, I think you'll like this. It's very existential, and it is quite a bit repetitive. I think people have said this already in their reviews. I quite like the repetition. I can see why people don't, you know, but that's my current read. Now I am gonna love you and leave you because I feel like I might die. I'm not being dramatic, I promise. Okay, so sorry, rudely interrupted by a gigantic coughing fit, which I think is my sign to say goodbye to you all, and go and feel sorry for myself for a bit longer. But I hope you enjoyed this little wrap up. I know I didn't read a lot, but I've already read 3 books in the first week of October. So there's lots more stuff to come, lots more reviews, lots more of me chinwagging, and I really hope that you'll join me for it. So I'll leave it there. I'll see you next time. Bye.